All right, AI, we've all been hearing a lot about it. Some of you may be quite familiar with it, others less so. So this is a sort of a brief intro into how to use AI in your business. So let's go. So what is AI? It can be a difficult thing to define, but one generally agreed on definition is AI, or artificial intelligence, is any technology that simulates human intelligence. And I emphasize simulates. There's a whole debate about whether these systems are actually thinking. I think at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. If they can help you in your business by offering good advice or information, that's really all that matters. So intelligence, that's also a tricky thing to define, but most experts say it includes things like learning new concepts, reasoning, solving problems, making decisions, perceiving things, and understanding things. And these systems seem to do that. They're getting better and better all the time. I'm going to give a brief demo of 3 of the main systems, but you'll see what they can do. So what can you use AI in your business for on a practical level? Well, in a way, and no offense to Tammy here, it's almost like having your business consultant. So it's kind of like having a partner that you can run ideas by, generate ideas, or try to solve problems. And in the demos I give you, you'll get a clear idea of this. It helps a lot out in creating content. So I know a few of you mentioned social media. Maybe you're struggling with that. So AI can be a really good tool to kind of brainstorm and give you ideas for social media, but really it can be used for anything. So let's say you have an email that you're working on. You can copy and paste the text of the email into any AI tool and say, improve this a bit, and it will rewrite it for you. But again, it's good for any type of communication. So documents, LinkedIn profiles, resumes, reports, and even images. So any kind of internal or external communication, AI is a great assistant for. It's great for brainstorming. So if you need to come up with new ideas for your product or service or company, things you hadn't thought of, it does quite an astounding job of giving you fresh ideas, a fresh perspective. And the great thing is you can get it to keep generating over and over, just to see different types of ideas. And finally, there are some advanced uses, which I'll get into. If you're using AI with a customer relationship management system, and that's a system that tracks all of your business information, it can give you advice about sales and automating certain processes. So what are the 3 main tools that are in use today? Well, you probably heard of them. The first is Chat GPT, which is made by OpenAI. And this is probably the most popular tool. It's a very good general purpose tool. It generates text only, but it does a very good job at pretty much any type of question that you can ask. The second one is Microsoft CoPilot. This used to be called Bing AI. And the strength of this tool is that it integrates directly with the web. So when you ask it questions, it will pull current articles and sites from the web. You still have to double check them, but it's good in terms of questions where you need really current information. And it also generates images. And the last one, the new kid on the block, is Google Gemini, which I've been playing for a while. It's also very good. And you'll see one of the advantages of this tool is that it can customize the output. It can make it shorter, longer, more friendly, more informal. It generates text. For a while, it was able to generate images, but they had to pull that because there was some controversy over some of the images that they were creating. I have no doubt eventually it will be able to create images again. So those are the 3 main tools, and I'll demo them after the presentation. The next thing that you can use AI for is in a CRM, or a customer relationship management system. Now, for those of you not familiar with a CRM, this is something that I work with. It's a web-based system where you organize all of your contacts, your emails, your marketing campaign, all of your communication in one system. And you can track things like tasks and workflows and so forth. So some of these CRMs, and I've listed 3 at the bottom, like HubSpot, Pipedrive, and Zoho CRM, they're starting to integrate AI directly into the system. So what does this mean? So this AI component in the CRM, it can look at your sales pipelines. And a pipeline is essentially where you have potential deals going through the sales process from the initial meeting all the way to the end. It can look at your deals and marketing data and can offer insights and sort of conclusions or advice on the whole sales process. It can generate content. Now, the content it generates is essentially similar to what you have with the standalone tools, but it does it right in the CRM itself, which can be quite convenient. It can track emails and it may suggest follow-up actions. So for example, if it sees that you've got an email from a client and you haven't responded in a week or two, it may say, hey, you might want to follow up with this client. So it acts kind of as a personal assistant. It can manage chatbots. And for those of you familiar with chatbots, they're these sort of text tools where you type questions on a website and it will give a response, maybe help give more information. It can be a useful tool for clients just wanting to get a bit of information about you and your company. And it can help customize the communication that you have with you and your clients by generating content or suggesting content. So those are some of the main uses of AI in CRMs. And finally, it can suggest automations or workflows. So these are systems within the CRM that automate things. So for example, let's say customers go to your website and they fill out a form, then you could automatically have an action like an email being sent or links being sent, something to follow up with that customer. Now, with any new technology, there's always going to be disadvantages or pitfalls, so it's important to be aware of them. The main one is that the information that's given by these systems, it's not always accurate or current. It's often said that these systems hallucinate, which is a fancy way of saying that they get it wrong or they lie. It's not really an intentional thing, it just sort of happens. So you always have to very carefully check anything that's generated by these systems, especially stuff that relates to current articles or websites, just to make sure that these things are actually exist. Another problem is that the responses that you get may often be biased. The way these systems work, they're essentially trained on the entire content of the internet, which has its own biases. Now, these companies are working to try and overcome these biases, but that can create other problems. So it's just something to be aware of, that you may get a bit of a biased response. Another pitfall is that we may become too reliant on these technologies. It's important that we just use them as a tool to help us in our jobs, not to replace our jobs. So just sort of be aware of that as you're using them. So with all that in mind, essentially the best practices, I would sort of sum up, is when you're entering a question or a query into these systems, try and be as detailed as you can, and you'll see that in the 3 examples I'm going to give. The more information you can give in the prompt, the better. Always fact check your responses, as I mentioned, because sometimes these systems, they get it wrong. When you get the output, don't just use it as is, sort of tweak it and tailor it for your tone, your style of writing. There are a lot of companies now that are able to detect if the content that you give is AI generated. So you don't want to be caught doing that. You do want to tweak the response quite a bit. So the bottom line is you want to use AI as a tool to enhance your work, not replace it. That's the key thing. It's a tool. So summing up, if you're only using AI, that's not really ideal because, as I say, you really want to tweak and customize the response for your needs. But if you're not using AI at all, that's also not ideal because it is a valuable tool and all these tools are free. So the best solution is to have you working with AI kind of as a partnership, and that's where you get the best results. So that's sort of my presentation. So I'd like now just to sort of give a brief demo of the 3 tools that I talk about. So I'm going to exit out of here and we're going to go to, I guess I'll share my screen again and we'll go to the web. We'll look at these 3 tools. And we'll start with Chat GPT. So I'm just going to give 3 examples. So Rima, you were mentioning that you're a nutritionist. So here's an example of a prompt that you could use in Chat GPT. I'm just going to paste it in, see if we can look at it. So you see how detailed this is? So what this is saying is you're an expert in industry researcher who could help me identify leading companies in the market, tell me how I can be better than them. I want you to find me the best companies that offer a similar service. Now, these words in these curly brackets, these are variables. So you can put anything you want here at the bottom. So you mentioned you were a nutritionist, so this is going to interpret it as nutritionist service in Toronto, and then deliver your response and so forth, a description of what they're good at and what I could do to improve. So when you submit that, you get pretty quickly a response. So this is giving examples of other nutritionist services. It's given their website, which you can check. And then you can take this content and you can paste it into a document. So that's a pretty good example of using Chat GPT. I'll just let it finish here. And maybe you've heard of some of these sites.